Hey folks, today we are covering as what the way Kaval Simple puts it, China's violent reaction to Pelosi's Taiwan trip as lessons for India. Militarized mindset of Xi Jinping's China becoming increasingly apparent. China has raised the ante for US policy towards Taiwan and that of others. No wonder the Chinese ambassador to India says egregiously that support for the One China policy is the foundation of China's relationship with India. Also, even when China rejects One India policy. It's time, folks, like I said last time, use the word. Show them the finger both ways. Gotta do it, you gotta do it. Have the guts and glory and the ballsiness. India's latest balancing act Taiwan tension, written by Michael Klugenberg, and puts it right. The stakes are especially high for India because of its rivalry with China, its quiet efforts to deepen engagement with Taiwan, and its role in US Indo-Pacific policy, right? However, India has expanded economic cooperation with Taiwan more than any of its neighbors, in great part because of its sharp rivalry with China. Trade with India accounts for nearly 80% of Taiwan's trade with South Asia. Now, if you give them recognition and get TSMC to set up a plant in India, Foxconn is already doing it. You got it coming then. Yet the broader geopolitical matter for India, China-Taiwan tensions are playing out in the Indo-Pacific region, where India strongly supports US policy that revolves around countering China. Current tensions are destabilizing the Indo-Pacific, and that does impact India's security interests and its objectives in the Indo-Pacific, Hashmi said. So there's no getting around it, right? And as Harsh Pant writes, Taiwan, Beijing's growing belligerence is a warning. He says, as Taiwan's foreign minister Joseph Wu made it clear, China cannot dictate to Taiwan what we should not welcome, that we should not welcome anyone who likes to come and show support for Taiwan. There has been a remarkable shift from Beijing's policy of trying to wean Taiwan away through engagement as economic ties boomed and the mainland emerged as an attractive destination for young Taiwanese. But Xi is in a hurry. He has no time for engagement if that means he does not get the historical legacy of reunification under his name. That much wanted China-Taiwan US status quo was based on flimsy foundations, which are now crumbling under the weight of the changing balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. And Obama and Hillary are to blame. China is keen to dismantle the status quo, much like in other spheres and in the typical fashion of a revisionist power. Beware India. The message to countries in East and Southeast Asia as well as India is clear. Be ready for Beijing's military intimidation if its unilateral alterations in the status quo are resisted. For the US, these are warning shots of a global challenger that for all its efforts over the last several decades, Washington has not been able to transform. New Delhi should begin to grapple with the big shifts in global order on an urgent basis. Puerile talk of non-alignment in this era of sharpening US-China contestation and growing belligerence of Beijing won't cut much ice like Harshman. Hallelujah. China drills around Taiwan go on a day after schedule end. Singapore warns of risk of US-China miscalculation. China preparing for invasion, says Taiwan. China fires missiles and live drills near Taiwan. India-Taiwan on front line of authoritarian expansion, says Taiwanese envoy. China military drills appear to simulate attack, says Taiwan. They absolutely do. China announces fresh round of military drills around Taiwan. Pelosi Taiwan trip hits Biden's bid to galvanize Asia against China, but has it, right? In dire Taiwan states like Saibal Dasgupta, it is expected to focus more on Europe and do what it can to persuade the EU not to go the US way. China will also look for alternative markets, including Vietnam and India. They're not going to get that if GOI permits that. It won't. What Pelosi has done is intensified an anti-China fever in the US and in other countries like Japan. There is no going back for Biden, more so because China's military exercise involving jet fighters and ballistic missiles in the seas around Taiwan appear more threatening with every passing hour, folks, and that is the reality. And China briefed India, invading Taiwan is still too risky, and that's what it says. It says just 2% of Taiwanese identify solely as Chinese, a figure that has fallen from 25%, and that makes invasion just like the delusion of Russia, thinking that people of Ukraine will be waiting with open arms. The same problem for China. Even if Beijing rules out peaceful reunification, the risks that would accompany an invasion are very high. There is no guarantee of Chinese success if it invades Taiwan, even without direct US intervention. China hasn't fought an actual war for 43 years since its failed invasion of Vietnam in '79. Although it has invested heavily in its military, it has had no opportunity to test its doctrine or technology. This is for India too. Despite Chinese claims that invasion would be quick and easy, it would be an amphibious attack of an unprecedented scale against a Taiwanese opponent that has prepared for the scenario for decades. even if it faces its own moral and logistical problems. Then there are the geopolitical risks of an invasion. Most importantly, the possibility of a full-scale war with United States. They can't take the risk. Technology firms such as TSMC have scorched earth plans in place for their factories in the event of an invasion, and talent would flee where possible. And there goes hallelujah. Finally, and perhaps most potent, is the political risk of invading Taiwan. There are few scenarios where mass protests and public rage could overwhelm China's extensive system of control, and the humiliation that would come with the failed invasion of Taiwan is one of them. Just unfortunately, in Russia that's not happened, but if war has happening to Russia and Ukraine, a stalemate happens to China, oh, Goshi, run, run, run. So what does India have to say? S. J. Shankar. India-China ties going through difficult phase, says J. Shankar, right? What an understatement. Jai Shankar Saab, what an understanding. Anyway, let's see. What are the lessons we should be learning? Jai Shankar should be learning. So writes Atul Mishra. Lessons for India from Pelosi's Taiwan visit. Assertion towards China would amount not to aligning with the West, but acting according to a principle of wider relevance, namely the bully must be stood up to. It is in India's national interest to do so. Do you hear that, Mr. Jai Shankar? Think backwards from there, and the import of Pelosi's visit is clear. America has stood up to Beijing and stayed back on this occasion. It may be no more than a moment, but it matters. It asserts American commitment to building and defending a rules-based order centered on Asia. It should strengthen the case for Japan's revising strategic posture, and it should make New Delhi more assertive vis-a-vis China. Guys, get up and grow up. China halts talks with US over Pelosi. Strap, Taiwan scrambles, jets as 68 China warplanes, 13 Navy ships conduct drills. Taiwan row overshadows ASEAN meet. Blinken and his Chinese counterpart trade path. This was in the past, right? China suspends dialogue with US on climate, drugs, defense. Stop provocative air activity near LAC. India tells China during talks. So while he's doing it in Taiwan, they're doing it in India too, right? And the funny part is, US on climate. America should even be this is scary. It's just a way out on the limb guy. You can't put everything on climate, and China is anyway not listening to you, right? China holds fresh drills as US lawmakers visit Taiwan. So US shows it up again. Taiwan, an internal question for Beijing, different from LSC issues, says China envoy. I shall tell you, China envoy, if I was to see him, this is what I would do. No, maybe this. Right. China seeks India's support on bilateral ties, Taiwan. Row the sun we don't. Smack him and send him on his way. US dares China again. Lawmakers delegation visits Taiwan amid Rao's rights Chidanand. Taiwan to coordinate with India, US, Japan to consolidate peace. Interesting. India should play a role, right? And the other advantage for India, or the trump card, is this. All party MPs forum seeks Bharat Ratna for Dalai Lama. Let's give it to him and put it on our democracy, which China is not. Confer Bharat Ratna to Dalai Lama. Conferring him the Ratna will also underline India's talent to value remarkable persons, irrespective of any external criticism that as a sovereign, self-thinking nation it can maturely handle. Hallelujah. Are we growing up? I don't know. Eye on China, Jai Shankar says Quad will benefit Indo-Pacific. China sanctioned Taiwanese figures to punish US island. Putin, US fanning Asia tension with Taiwan, visit NATO like AUKUS. Okay. Unmade in Taiwan policy. This is written with Pranab Bhalsamta, written well. He says, put simply, US acknowledgement of one China does not mean endorsement of Beijing's version. Remember that, right? Same thing for India. The current Taiwan crisis is gradually ending this carefully crafted policy of ambiguity around the one China principle. That's because it was predicated first on communist China's support against the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and then on its peaceful rise as an economic power. But China has grown as an aggressive military economic power, threatening the security of its neighbors, a fact the West is appreciating better after the Ukraine war and a long standoff in Taiwan. And as Sana Hashmi rightly writes, India must strengthen its ties with Taiwan. Must. China is less likely to consider the territorial concerns of other nations, especially India, as it gets ready for the 20th Party Congress later this year. As a democratic country, India should consider building ties with Taiwan, a fellow democracy. The China-Taiwan tension will impact the Indo-Pacific strategic dynamics and India's political-military interests and goals. As a significant rising power, it is in India's interest to prepare to prevent a Taiwan contingency and have a response that aligns with its values and interests in the Indo-Pacific. Absolutely right. And India did it right. India breaks Taiwan's silence, says Avoid bid to change status quo unilaterally. India slams China for shielding Pak terrorists. Remark comes amid Eastern Ladakh standoff. But what's this? And India and NATO have been in touch, right? At the end, the important part is it did not shake hands on one China policy. Whether it does it or not, that's another matter. That changed during Vajpayee's time, guys, by the way. India and China must not allow their politics to interfere in internal affairs of neighborhood. And this is a guy from Bhutan. We've got to keep watching Bhutan. There's some things in play there. India cannot take it for granted. Cheers. So China continues to actually worry the world, whether it is expanding. But the problem I'm feeling is that their internal dynamics, which is the internal economy that's going to fund this delusional great power acts, is actually failing and is in deep trouble internally. However, what do we have? A satellite image shows China's first overseas military base ready, can handle warships. This is Djibouti. And in Sri Lanka, China showed us the eyes and the fingers. So does Sri Lanka. As its ships dock in Lanka port, Beijing says this is live. Okay. Sri Lanka problem. China's spy ship in Lankan port is a security worry that requires India to work with the Quad. Let's not shy away from that. And I've always been suggesting that the Andaman Islands should be India's approach and be offered to the Quad as a headquarter. China hunting for bases in the Indian Ocean region. Third parties should not obstruct China, says, and this pointed towards India, right? Won't let port be used for military motives, says Sri Lanka. Now, what is Arun Prakash, right? And this is what we have to do for our Navy, right? Step back from water's edge. India's response to presence of Chinese military vessels in Indian Ocean needs to be more calibrated. But what he says is an important point. India must face the reality that with its 350 warship strong battle force having overtaken the US Navy, China has achieved its ambition of becoming a maritime great power. China's 2019 Defense White Paper charges the PLA Navy with responsibility of safeguarding shipping's prized maritime Silk Road that spans the Indo-Pacific and includes its CPEC. The string of ports created by China in India's neighborhood are meant to undergird this endeavor. This is, in my view, China's weak point. It's extended, it's relying on countries that are bankrupt, it's relying on countries that are not powerful, this is relying on countries which there is anti-China sentiment all across the population. Its investments are in trouble, folks. Chinese ships docks in Lanka port. India fears more may follow. They probably will under India unless India gets its act together. India wary of China's raising its presence. It should. And here's what you got to worry about. Ex-Lankan Navy chief lobbied for Chinese version. Go figure this, right? Indo-China ties can't be normal until border situation is, says EAM. That's true. Lanka U-turn will allow China ships, says, keeping all interests in mind. I think hardly. Its own interests, actually. India hands over Dornier aircraft to Sri Lanka. I'm not sure for what. Lanka permits Chinese ship to dock from August 16th. China hits liquidity trap as low rates fail to spur loans. And this, folks, is what we should be focusing on. And the other thing, it's losing its spins in Europe. Down to 14+1, Latvia, Estonia quit China's East Europe Forum. And there are going to be more to follow. Watch this too. Heat wave strains Chinese economy. For more than 2 months, China has faced its most severe heat wave in 6 decades. The economy is suffering and the heat wave is forecast to persist for at least another week. The southwest is particularly hard, as is the COVID back again. China's state-owned giants plan to delist from US amid audit spat. 300 TikTok bite dance staff workers for Chinese state media reports. So they get a whole bunch of stuff happening. And what does India need to do for Viksit Bharat? He says 3 major foreign policy tasks present themselves in the hopefully journey of a Viksit Bharat. The first is the need to overcome the residual legacies of partition that continue to undermine India's geopolitical position. So does this party, right? The second is about coping with the growing power gap with China. Beijing has been the great beneficiary of India's partition. India has compounded that problem over the decades by persistent romanticism about China and overestimating the potential for collaborating with Beijing. And last but not the least, it is about building stronger partnerships with our major powers, but collaboration with other great powers has been hobbled by old ideas of non-alignment and strategic autonomy. There lies India's problem. We really need to be moving much faster if we want to catch the wind behind our sails, which is now blowing right front and face and center against China. We should forget about romanticizing what China is, China will do, and forget the rogue element Russia, because they are playing China's game as far as the world is concerned, and specifically as far as India is concerned. So I really don't understand why India has been sending this contingent to fight along China and Russian soldiers. I'm not really sure what they're going to achieve, folks. More of that later. Jai Hind.